Man, Ella, this is the toughest question I've ever been asked.
Yes.
I'm so stressed right now. Okay.
Hello, everyone. Today is, I have a very special guest. Yael, to say your first name or your new last name. Did you change your last name when you got married?
So I was very conflicted about this. Even though I would joke with my mom all growing up that my name is so freaking hard to say, I should have been pumped to just sub in West because that's my husband's last name.
A lot easier for the rest of the world, but
Yeah. So now it's Yael Averbuch West. I just made it more complicated by default.
or just
No, I just have two last names. I just added it.
That's fine. We'll go with that. We'll call you Yael. AW. Go from there. Okay. Yael, we kind of grew up. We were just talking about this before the conversation that we were playing football together after we both. Well, that was my first time called up to the national team. You've been there before. When we went in 2011 or 10, right? And we were
I think it was maybe the end of 2009 that we went on that trip to Germany.
We're so old. Anyways, we were in Chapel Hill training together, and I actually knew about her and her husband, the feelings, before they did, just to go on record. So I'm kind of like the
She knew about the non-existent feelings because we were just friends, but she did bring it up before anybody else.
Yeah. Aaron, you're welcome, okay? Just for your husband there. First and foremost, describe yourself in 3 words.
Ooh. Ambitious, driven, weird.
I would have to agree 100%. All those. Yael is weird, folks. She can, if you said, can you rap a Lil Wayne song, she can go word for word, and that's not a joke.
Yeah, not on this talk, but it is true.
Okay, first section of this from all your fans here is growing up and NWSL. So they're kind of 2 in 1. So the first question is, when did you start playing soccer?
I started when I was 7 because my best friend in school played, and my parents and no one in my family knew anything about soccer. So it was a funny learning. We have some funny stories about our misunderstandings of things and how we learned the sport together.
Okay. And if you guys don't know Yael, go to her Instagram because her mom and her father are incredibly fit. Actually, your father for sure now lifts more for the hang clean than I ever have. How much?
Yeah, they're crazy. I don't know how much he actually lifts. He'll probably be mad because I don't know his stats. But they're both deadlift. Quick story. So they both are lifelong athletes, but they never played soccer. My mom the other day, she was doing her deadlifts with a hex bar, and I was like, oh, I'll just jump in between and just do some easy deadlifts because my mom, she's almost 70 years old and she weighs 100 pounds and I think 110 pounds. Yeah. And I was trying not to play it cool, but it was so hard I could barely do it. She's freaking strong. My parents are psychos. Did you play other sports growing up? And when did you decide to focus solely on soccer and why? So yeah, my parents, like I said, my parents are lifelong athletes. They were both long distance runners competitively. And so I was always doing a lot of activities, sports activities. We're always outside running, playing tennis, playing baseball and stuff. But I never actually played on a team for anything. So I never did any organized sports. Besides soccer was the first organized sport I played. And from the moment I started, everybody tried to get me to be well-rounded and do other things, and I never wanted to. So I didn't actually play in other sports really growing up. How old were you, say, that when you found football? 8, 9, younger, 7? So I was 7 when I started, but then I would say that by the time I was probably around 9, I was all in. I wouldn't do anything else. Okay. Who was your sporting idol growing up? Ooh, so, I watched, once I started playing soccer, I was into watching, especially the 99 team that won the World Cup. So Mia Hamm, Christine Lilly, I loved watching Tisha Venturini play, Brandi Chastain, all of those women. You guys don't know these names, obviously the big ones, but otherwise. Yeah, the fact that people don't know them anymore, you need to look them up. These are legends of the game. And I think also in the U.S. we had it such a unique way that we actually could watch women's football and be a fan of them. I mean, when you say 99, most people think of Man United, the guys from 99. Yeah. They don't go to the Women's World Cup. It's true. Okay, you went to North Carolina. Obviously, you won everything because North Carolina is North Carolina. So the college system is very different to Europe. What do you think are the best and worst things about it? So I think now it's a little bit, it's shifted a little, but I would say that the college system in the US is really wonderful because just the depth of talent, like the number of players who play for top colleges is so many more players than would ever play professionally, or even than would want to maybe go to Europe or go find a top professional club. It's people who are student athletes, so they're going to school but then also happen to be really good athletes. So there's just it's very competitive, and the level among the top schools is really, really high. I would say, and as well as like in the US right now, some of the best coaches actually coach in the college game rather than professionally, just because there's more money in it, the facilities, everything. It's like, it is a very professional experience as an athlete. I would say that certainly now I would say that the level of the top European clubs or the top NWSL clubs is significantly higher than the college game. At the time when we went to college, I think it was, the top colleges were comparable to like top professional clubs. But now, to really, if you really want to play at the highest level and get the best coaching and also play year round, because the college season is very short, it certainly makes sense to start a professional career at that point. There's so many other things that are part of college life that really distract from being a footballer 100%. So I would say, definitely nowadays, if you want to play at the top level when it comes time, when you're 17, 18, you need to play professionally, and college wouldn't be the answer anymore.
I think so, but now, like, as I end my career in Europe, I'm so thankful that I have, obviously some of my best friends are from college, but also just have a degree. Like so many top players in Europe, these are the top girls in Europe, so they've had a different way, but they have to go back for a college degree because they went professional at 17, 18 years old. Yeah. And for us, it's not heard of yet. I mean, you have Lindsay Orand, you have what's her name, Jordan from Canada, so it's getting a little bit more, but it's growing, but it's just not there yet, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think we're starting to see that transition, but it'll be a long period of time when we kind of see that happen.
Still speaking about North Carolina, you set so many records during your college years. Did you always know that you would want to be a professional?
Yeah, I mean, I went to college in order to be a professional, and to be honest, for me, if there were like what I felt like were an easier opportunity maybe to go pro, like if there were a league in the US at the time, I probably would have really considered being a professional player. At the time though, the team at UNC, it was professional. It was some of the top players in the world. Almost everybody ended up playing pro. And so my decision was very much like, I had the mindset of like, I was all about getting better as a player. The school for me was secondary. I took it seriously. I got good grades, but like I definitely had the mindset of a professional player.
Just so people know, in your class, and I say the class below, how many of those players, like just name some of them that are still playing now for the national team or that have created, I don't know, a very good name for them professionally? Yeah. Ali Long, Tobin Heath, Casey Nagara.
Yeah. Nikki Washington played professionally for a little. I mean, Heather O'Reilly was there when I went to school. I mean, we had, Lindsay Tarpley was there when I got there. So like on the field, between my freshman and sophomore year, almost every single starting player had experience with the national team. So that's what we're talking about, like the kind of caliber of player. Okay. Ashlyn Harris, Whitney Engen. I'm just like even more.
We could go on.
Yeah. I'm sure we even forgot a few more.
Sorry about that, everyone that we both forgot here. Okay, for the university, this is actually really interesting. I didn't know this about you. For the University of North Carolina, you once played 105 games in a row. What's the key to staying fit for the length of time?
Yeah, it's funny. That's something I'm really proud of. For my whole career, I was very, I would say like I had a very sustainable career. Like I was really careful about, I think it has to do with the type of athlete I am too. I'm like more of a endurance athlete rather than explosive, like sometimes players who like are running really fast and cutting really hard, or a forward getting hit a lot. There are things that happen that are out of your control. So certainly I had the athletic makeup to not get injured that much, but I also took really good care of my body. I always made sure I came into preseason very well prepared. I do, like still to this day, I do these ankle exercises to strengthen my ankles. I never rolled my ankle my whole career. Like I'm a psycho. In the middle of the night, I'll be like, oh shoot, I didn't do my ankle exercises, and I'll be doing them. And so I was very conscientious about that. So it did allow me to play for long periods of time without, having injuries, which I think was important for me because I could keep getting better. Whereas like other players might have long breaks where they have to take time off, and you can do things to get better, like watch the game and stuff. But I had a long sustained periods of time where I could keep training. So I really was thankful for that.
I think you introduced me actually when we were in for the U23s to like really foam rolling.
Oh yeah, and we did our arm circles.
I just do it today, I really got to.
Yeah, I haven't done this in a while.
Okay, now we're going to move quickly into the WPS draft. You and I were both drafted in 2009. In the month before, how much did players know and about it, and what was going on to happen? Like, did you know you were going to get drafted? People always joke like, "Oh, Emily, you got drafted 9th overall. Like, what did you get?" I'm like, "What? I got a scarf and a hug." Like,
well, I don't even think I got a scarf.
Yeah, that was it. But like, how did you know about the process? I mean, did you have an agent involved, just to show also how much the game has changed in 10 years?
Yeah, I honestly, now that I'm thinking back, it's a really good question. I didn't know almost anything, and I didn't really know that I was going to be drafted. I kind of thought I would, and I was really happy because I got drafted to Sky Blue, which is my hometown team. But at the time, no, I knew nothing. I just got a call on the phone. I wasn't even at the draft. I don't think that many players went to the draft. Like, if they were local, maybe they went. But what was really cool is, so basically, I think I got a phone call and I was like, oh, cool, I'm on a team. And yeah. I didn't even understand though either that you have to still earn your spot on the team. I knew nothing. But this year going to the NWSL draft, I was emotional when I walked in because now it's a big deal. It looks so cool. And I was like, whoa, this is very different than the olden days when we started.
Yeah, I mean, anyone that I've talked to, for example, Hedvig at Chelsea, she says 5 years ago, she did their own laundry. Yeah. And in 5 years now, they're signing Sam Kerr on a ridiculous contract, and she can really change her life. It's really crazy. Even the last 3 years, just the momentum of
progress is amazing.
Okay, in your first season with Sky Blue, you win the playoffs. Was that a really realistic aim at the start of the season? And how did you feel about the early success of your career?
Yeah, so it's interesting. No, it was not a realistic aim. We were pretty bad all season. I would say we were very inconsistent. We had really good players, but we went through that first season. We had 5 different coaches. It was a disaster of a season. Yeah, it was a really bad season overall, and it was a really tough first professional experience for me as a player. The inconsistency in coaching, and I never knew where I stood or what I needed to do personally to get better, and my confidence was very low, and a lot of players struggled.
Still kind of in with the national team?
So during this time, actually, that season, towards the end, I started to solidify my spot and play more, and then our team actually had a really good run, and in a ridiculous turn of events, won the championship. We were not the best team all season, but we came together. We had good players. We were doing well. We had a player coach, Christy Rambone. And so through that, I had a couple caps prior to that in 2007, actually. But through that, the end of my first year as a pro, I actually got another chance with the national team. So that led to another opportunity. But at the time, I was really I was trying to prove myself, and it was a very difficult season. So the fact that we won the championship and then I got called up to the national team is kind of not indicative of really the full scope of what happened.
That's football, hey?
Yeah, seriously.
Okay, so 2 years later, you win the playoffs again, and this time Western New York with Western New York Flash. In the final, you score the winning penalty. Can you ever truly prepare yourself for the pressure of a moment like that, or is there always some kind of luck? I'm going to answer this because Yael is one of the most prepared players I've ever met, and you've done that before in college. So, I mean, obviously you were nervous, but did you step up and say, I wanted the 5th penalty, or is that just the process?
No, I did not want to take the penalty. Usually I do. Usually, this is the way that I feel about penalties. I think the people who want to take them should take them because you have to be okay with, it's a 50-50 chance. You can miss or you can score. And you have to be okay with anyone could miss and anyone could score. So if you feel confident, you know what you're going to do, you just have to be okay with it. And usually I am. That game, actually, this is what I always would say. I will always take a penalty, any spot in the order. The only time I don't want to take a penalty is if I didn't feel if I didn't play in the game or contribute really in the game, then I do not want to take a penalty. And I came in overtime and I was like, I don't want to take a penalty this game. So I was I'm not really part of the game. I came in with maybe I don't even know how much time left in overtime, and then I had to take the 5th penalty, and that I did not want to do. I mean, I took some deep breaths, I did what I do, but like, it was, I mean, certainly the same amount of luck or preparation that anyone would have in that situation, and I didn't particularly want to.
Okay, you kind of mentioned a little bit with the stuff, but how do you think the biggest change for the NWSL over the last 10 years? Like, what do you think from the moment you started in 2009, even though it's WPS, to now? What are the 3 positive changes that you've seen?
Yeah, I think overall the overall level and parity of the players in the league, I think, is definitely improved. You know, in the beginning, there were some star players that like world all-stars that were really good, but I think that over time, teams have started to solidify like styles of play, and so we've seen teams pick up players that fit their style of play, and so there's like a little bit more cohesion in I would say the full group of all pros in this country. The gap has closed a little from before, where you'd have some superstars and then some it was like, oh, that's kind of like a random pick. So I think that certainly. But yeah, I think also the support and enthusiasm surrounding the women's game here has really increased, and it's been interesting because I would say I would credit Portland Thorns a lot with leading the way here, seeing that like the bar has been set now. Not every club has been able to follow, but we've seen sold out stadiums. We've seen 20,000 people on a rainy night in Portland. Like that would never happen before, and so I think. There are little things like that. Well, they're big things, but things that you feel as a player in situations that like didn't exist before. And so I'd say going into this season, that's kind of the norm. You expect when you go to Portland, you're going to have the massive crowd. And before, you would never expect that.
Yeah, and I think that was always, I think it really started to take off right before I left in 2014 or 2015. And people were like, aren't you nervous? I'm like, no, we get to go play in front of 20,000 people. Like, the Portland fans are incredible, even though they're booing you or whatever. But it's like, it's something that you dream of, and no one else in the world, even Champions League finals here, they don't necessarily get 20,000 people, and they're like really into it. They're like really European fans, yeah. You know, we really have to give them some credit.
It's consistent. It's every game. It's not just for the championship game.
Yeah. You had a little stint in Russia here, and so you wanna go in on what was, I guess, moving to, it was WFC Rosyanka, right?
Yes.
Why there, and some positives of that time. I know we obviously talked about during that time, but yeah, why Russia?
Yeah, so basically, when the WPS folded and there was no league in the US, my first thing was like, okay, well, I have to find an opportunity to play. I never thought of stopping. And that was the opportunity that came up first through my agent, and there were a couple other Americans going, and I should have known it was a little bit weird because it was like pretty good money for at the time in the women's game. Like, yeah, I was like, whoa, okay, well, like I can't really say no to this. But it was not a good experience. I mean, I have good stories from it now, and I wouldn't have made a different decision if I could go back because I didn't know any better. But it did teach me to really like vet the experience and figure out more information before you just show up somewhere, which I think is a good lesson for all players. Is now there's more information about a lot of the top clubs, and you would know if you hadn't heard of a club, maybe you should look into it. But at the time, I was like, oh, it's a club, they're offering money, I can go play Champions League, awesome. And Champions League was an amazing experience. So yeah.
And then from there, you went to Sweden with Gothenburg or Göteborg, where you won the Swedish Cup and Super Cup. Was this period in which you played the best time of your football career, or you just think everything came together at the right timing?
I think that for me, it was a really happy time. Sweden's a happy place to live. Everybody is so nice and welcoming. I really love the approach to football there. So I loved playing there. My style of play really fit with the very cohesive, team-oriented style in Sweden, a lot more technical and tactically based, where like players are working together more than I was used to in the US, where it's very individual. So I think for me, a lot of things clicked in the sense of like, I felt that the tools I had been developing fit better. So it was a really nice time. Certainly I had still areas of the game that I feel like I improved after that I wish I could go back and try again there. But yeah, it was a really enjoyable time in my career.
And now they're playing Champions League this year, right? Or they did?
Yeah, I mean the team. It's interesting. I still follow the team, and I love seeing the results because it's historically been a very solid team, and I think the club is based on the right things and the right values, and they have a lot of loyalty to their players, and I really appreciated their approach. So I think they've just kind of stayed at the top. They have little dips here and there, but have traditionally been in Champions League a number of times.
Credit to that owner for sure. What is the biggest lesson you learned from your time in Europe? Do you think the period changed you as a player and or person?
Oh, yes, certainly it changed me as a player and person. I think what I learned is a little bit more perspective on showing up somewhere and what it means to play on a team. I showed up with kind of initially the thought like, oh, well, I'm here to do a job and I need to get something out of this and I'm going to go home. But like that wasn't the right mindset. And I learned to really get to know the people and understand the culture and understand what was going on with the team and really become a part of it. And I think I learned it a little too late in my time. So I wish I had learned that earlier, but I think that my mindset changed certainly throughout my time. And I actually learned to enjoy myself a little more and like why I was doing this rather than just show up and get it done, go home, which is what my mindset always was before.
Your mentality for sure. Do you think all players should play abroad at least once in their career?
I think it depends on the person. I always tell this to American players, like, I think it's a wonderful experience, but depends on how adventurous you are, how comfortable you feel. Some players just want to be local and don't, care that much. But I think you certainly will gain things that you cannot gain staying in your own country or your own region, I would say even.
Yeah, I always tell Americans, like, if you're going over, you don't really know it. If you can possibly go over with another American, especially depending on the country, like France, I think is a big one. And try to go over with someone that you know. Or if you don't know, just someone that speaks your own language and you can kind of navigate it together.
Yeah, I agree.
Does playing for your country at every age group level make you've played with every age group for the U.S.?
Yeah, Okay. So that is one of my stats, I guess.
I guess so. What age? I don't even know what age it starts. U14?
Well, yeah, there was like a U14 camp, and then I had an opportunity at all the like U16, U17. Now they've reshaped the age groups, but there was like those, where they're like the typical teams that existed.
Okay, so the question is, with all you playing at every age level, do you feel like it's different when you earned your first debut for like the full team?
Oh yeah, I mean that's another world. I think. I mean, it's an honor to go to a youth national team camp or put on that jersey for the first time. And we were on a bunch of trips together, and so, but it's like it's a different feeling when it's the real deal, I would say. And yeah, I don't even remember it because I couldn't breathe and I couldn't feel my legs.
What age was it? It was 2007, you said?
It was 2007 in China against England, actually. Yeah. And was your first cap against Germany?
We were in together.
For that game. I had to play left mid and I was terrible.
In that game, I'll never forget the crowd with the wave. Remember how loud that was when you were like in the corner and then it was like so loud, so quiet. That was still one of my coolest experiences. What's your highlight for your time playing for your country? Favorite game?
Ooh. You know what? If I'm being very honest, I never felt like I really solidified my spot or was able to contribute like I wish I would have. So certainly anytime I was able to put on that jersey, especially the first time, it was like such an incredible honor. But I would say that I don't know if I had a favorite game because I never really was happy with how I was able to contribute.
The U.S. women's team have dominated the world of football for a long time. What do you think the secret is?
I mean, I think that the number of players here who are competing for those few spots is key. It's so competitive. You know that the players who are there have had to prove themselves every single day, and in practice, at every point, even the freaking warm-up is competitive. So it's so overly competitive that by the time they get to a game against another country, it's just that's a huge advantage.
I think also people don't realize, like Sweden has, now 14 million people? Like Chicago has 14 million people. It's like the amount of people that we can choose from and that how much football has been in our blood since, like you said, the 99ers. We're 20 years ahead.
Yeah.
Like we could really think if we make we've had this conversation, if we make two national teams in A and B, I still think the B team, because of just how many people we have in the talent pool, we could really compete in the top 5 in the world.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the depth of talent is enormous.
I mean, look now, there's so many players that from the World Cup now to the Olympics, and they haven't missed a step.
Yeah, no, it's there's a huge depth of talent.
Yeah. Okay, last question with US. How do you hope people remember you as a player? I guess this is with USA and retirement.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I haven't thought about that much. I haven't officially retired. I would say like.
Are you saying now there's a chance for a comeback?
I'm not actively planning a comeback, but for some reason, well, I'll answer the question first, and then we can get into that. But I think that I would like to be remembered as a skillful player. That's always been very important to me, and I mean, that certainly was my strength above any other aspect of the game. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay, and I would also say you were always very fit.
Oh, thank you. I think I forgot about that part because now I'm not.
But like you always did the little things. You always, I mean, even when I met you when we were U23s, you were always. I remember coming in, I was like, oh, this is what it takes to be a pro, because you just had it in your mind. It was just this one way to do it, and you were very, very dedicated to making it the most of every experience.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay, so how difficult you can obviously, Yael, you can be as open as you want. I know you've been very open about the illness and everything, which I think has been, sometimes I read your posts, I'm like, man, she has so much courage, because it takes a lot for you to, Instagram, people never show when they're struggling, and I think it's a huge step for people as athletes and as, you are a public figure to show the reality of life. So how difficult is it when you made this decision right now to stop playing, and it was kind of taken out of your hands, like you were talking about a bit before, like your body literally had to tell you, hey, yeah, it's enough. It's enough for now.
Yeah, I mean, you're right in that sense. And I'll just clarify for people. I have an illness called ulcerative colitis. It's kind of like Crohn's disease. It's a really nasty digestive illness. But basically, I played until I literally could not. Like I was essentially hospitalized because I just kept going. And I'm laughing. It's not funny, but...
in Seattle, you're like, oh, I just was in the hospital
yeah.
for a couple of weeks. And I was like,
yeah. I tried as much as I could, and I literally I couldn't. So I didn't actually decide to step away, but it was really tough. I would say that in a weird way, being sick made it easier for me. But the first season I didn't play, which was last season, was a strange time to sit back and watch. But I actually I felt okay with it and at peace. Like I literally couldn't do it if I wanted to, and there was some sense of freedom I gained from. I was stuck on this track of that I would never second guess, doing my very best, battling all the time. And I think it wasn't right for me anymore. And my body literally just took me out of the situation.
And today, I mean, and we talked about it a bit just for people to know, like you're better, you can live a normal life. It's okay. Like how are you today?
Yeah. So the goal of my treatment is to go into remission, which would mean I have zero symptoms. I'm not in remission. It still affects certain aspects of my life. Traveling is really hard. I wake up a number of times in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. I don't spare any details for anyone. I share all details, but we won't go too much in depth. But basically, I have to be by a bathroom at all times or it's very stressful. So you can imagine all the things in life like driving, traveling that like cause stress. But I'm certainly a lot better than I was, so I feel very thankful for that. But I'm not there yet, and so it's been a very long, drawn out process and road back to recovery from being really, really sick.
It's been 3 years now, right? When you got the worst one?
Yeah, I started to get into this flare up of it. I knew I'd had it, and I had little flare ups that no problem, took some medicine, it was fine. But I started this flare up just over 3 years ago, and it got really bad, and then I've been working my way slowly back to health.
Retirement or stepping away from the women's game is very different to the retirement in the men's. At the time, did you see taking a break as an exciting opportunity for you, or was it terrifying?
I would say neither. I wasn't excited about it, that's for sure. I felt sad, and I wasn't also scared because I had actually started my own business a couple years before. Technique Football, it's a training app for players, and I was doing a number of things off the field. So I was still so involved in things off the field that I wasn't scared, like, oh, what's next? But I do agree, it's very different than the men's game. There's no time to sit back and relax and enjoy celebrating your career you got to get right into some other work. And actually, I got into other work as I was playing because I didn't have enough money to live.
I mean, I think that's what people. I was on a board this summer with like Paulo Vieira, like Luis Sane, like these guys played 10, 15 years at Man United and Chelsea. And, you know, they're sitting up there and they're all in the club working. And I was just saying difference. I was like, listen, guys, when I am retired now for 1 month, I maybe got 4 months left. And then I got to get into something because
that's better than most people.
I didn't make money until like really save until I was at Wolfsburg at 31. And if someone would have told me that, I would have said, that's never going to happen. Yeah. You know, I had a bit of luck at the end of my career, but it's still a really harsh reality. We don't get to sit and say, oh, let's go for a year traveling. Let's go to my house in, I don't know, Mallorca. You know, it's still a very hard reality of the game. Only I would say the top, 3% can do that, maybe?
Yeah, and maybe not even, but yeah.
Okay, after retiring, we're calling it your break.
You can say retired.
You were quickly appointed executive director of the NWSLPA, so the NWSL Players Association. How did that happen, and what does that role involve?
Yeah, so as an active player with some other players, we had started the Players Association to represent everybody taking part in NWSL because there was no union. It's not like other countries where players are part of the union that's involved in the men's league. Yeah. So we started this organization, and then I was actually looking to hire somebody for the role to lead the organization, not as an active player. And then when I couldn't play, I decided, you know what, I can't, it's hard to find somebody to hire right now. Let me take this role. So the players technically appointed me to take that role, which was good because I could stay very involved in the league and with what I was doing, but obviously off the field.
And I mean, huge credit to you guys. I know I was just kind of talking to my business partner, and he was telling me how this year you guys had an incredible increase of salary, of player. I mean, the league has rules to help the player out, has significantly increased this year.
Yeah, there's been progress. It's slow progress over time, but this year we saw a really good bump, and that's what we understand as players. It's going to be slow progress as visibility increases, as ticket sales increase and all of that, then the situation for the players will increase, but it doesn't go the opposite direction, you know.
They learned from the WPS, and you know, it went way too big too quickly, and
yeah,
it crashed. Okay, what's the best thing about being away from football, about doing this next life for you, and what's the hardest?
I realized by default that the part I thought I loved about the game, waking up and like having a mission every day to get better, like that, I loved that for 20 plus years, and it started to take a toll on me in a way that I hadn't realized. And so the relief of the pressure to be able to wake up and say, I don't feel well today, I'm not going to push myself, or I'm going to travel somewhere and not have to bring my foam roller and be panicked about getting up 6 times on the airplane and hydrating as much as possible. Like all the thought processes that all day long consumed me about making sure I was ready and at my very best. I loved it for so many years, but towards the end, it was too much for me. And so there's been a big relief in my life, and I can be happy in a way I couldn't be before because there was so much pressure always to first be my best and then I could be happy. Now I could just be happy.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the hardest?
I mean, I love playing. I still consider myself a player. So I miss the parts of playing that I love, especially the small-sided like games. I still play pickup, and that part, like when I play, I love it. But I would say the hard part and the parts I miss, I can still do. Yeah. I still train and play with the ball. I still play pickup. So I don't, it's been pretty good.
If you guys don't believe her, you should see the couple therapy that her husband and her recommend when they do their 2-touch or 1-touch drills. It's actually quite entertaining. Okay, thank you so much for your time. I hope people really listen to this. I mean, we talked a little bit earlier about like how crazy the game's changing, and for kids to be, you know, growing up in this day and age, it's like you're traveling at 10 years old, thousands of dollars. So I think you have to really take into account this woman has won everything. She did it the right way. She grown up and she had the mentality, but she also just always loved football. And I think that's the most important thing for anyone to understand.
Appreciate that, Ella.